Gaius Julius Caesar was born on July 12th or 13th, 100 BCE, into the ancient but declining Julian family. Though his family claimed divine descent from the god Venus, they were far from the wealthiest or most powerful in Rome. His father, also named Gaius Julius Caesar, held modest political office. His mother, Aurelia Cotta, was from a more prestigious family. From a young age, Caesar learned that reputation and ambition would be his tools to climb Rome's rigid hierarchy. At age 16, Caesar's father died, making him the head of the family. Around this time, Rome was a volatile place, with civil wars between political factions: the Optimates, aristocratic conservatives; the populars, champions of the common people. Caesar married Cornelia, daughter of a prominent popularist leader. This angered the dictator Lucius Cornelius Sulla, who had seized power for the Optimates. Sulla ordered Caesar to divorce her. Caesar refused. He was stripped of his inheritance and priesthood and went into hiding, only surviving after influential friends pleaded for his pardon. That act of defiance marked Caesar for life. He would not bow to tyranny. After Sulla's death, Caesar joined the army, serving in Asia Minor and Cilicia. He showed courage in battle and gained a reputation for bravery, charisma, and intellect. One of the most famous early stories of Caesar's life. While sailing in the Aegean, he was captured by pirates. When they asked for a ransom of 20 talents, he laughed, saying he was worth 50. During his captivity, he joked he would have them crucified. And once he was freed, he did exactly that. After returning to Rome, Caesar became known as an orator, giving powerful speeches and winning over the people. By his early 30s, Caesar was a rising star. Aged 31, he was elected quaestor. Quaestors were elected officials who supervised the state treasury and conducted audits. When he was around 35 years old, he became aedile, responsible for public games, which he made spectacular and expensive, earning the people's love but also heavy debts. Lastly, at the age of 37, he was elected Pontifex Maximus, which is the chief priest, in a surprising victory, thanks to political maneuvering and bribery. His ability to connect with the people while navigating the aristocratic Senate made him both admired and feared. Rome was divided between powerful figures: Pompey the Great, a brilliant general; Crassus, the richest man in Rome; and now Caesar, the rising populist. In 60 BCE, Caesar orchestrated an unofficial alliance, the First Triumvirate, with Pompey and Crassus. Together, they controlled much of Roman politics. In 59 BCE, Caesar became consul, Rome's highest office. But he wasn't done. In 58 BCE, Caesar became governor of Gaul, modern-day France, and Belgium. Over the next 8 years, he led military campaigns that expanded Rome's territory and made himself fabulously rich and powerful. He defeated tribes like the Helvetii, Belgae, and Germans. His most famous victory came against Vercingetorix at the Battle of Alesia in 52 BCE, a masterclass in siege warfare. At the same time, he wrote Commentari de Bello Gallico, a detailed and flattering account of his campaigns, which kept his popularity high in Rome. It came clear that Belgae, modern-day Belgium, although small, was one of the more difficult tribes to conquer. As he wrote, "Of all the Gauls, the Belgae are the bravest." That's high praise from a man who conquered almost all of Western Europe. An example of why Belgae was hard to conquer was the battle against the Eburones. Their leader, Ambiorix, launched a guerrilla-style revolt during winter, when Roman legions were more vulnerable. They tricked and ambushed a Roman legion, wiping out an entire force of about 6,000 men, a major loss for Caesar. Ambiorix then fled into the forests and marshes, and Caesar never managed to capture him. The terrain, dense forests, rivers, and bogs made Belgic territory hard to navigate and easy for ambushes. After this territory was conquered, he was commanding a loyal and battle-hardened army and the Senate was growing very nervous. By 49 BCE, Caesar's enemies in the Senate, especially Pompey, once his ally, tried to strip him of power. They ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome alone. Caesar faced a choice: obey and be humiliated, or rebel. Instead, he crossed the Rubicon River, the boundary of his province, and marched on Rome. Alea iacta est. The die is cast, he said, choosing civil war over surrender. The civil war raged across the Roman world. Caesar's forces defeated Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus. 48 BCE chased him to Egypt, where Pompey was murdered by the Egyptians. In Egypt, Caesar met Cleopatra, the exiled queen. He supported her claim to the throne, fought a small war in Alexandria, and fathered a child Caesarion. He then moved across the Mediterranean, defeating remaining enemies in Asia Minor and Africa. One of his famous quotes after a swift victory: "Veni, vidi, vici." I came, I saw, I conquered. Caesar returned to Rome a hero and ruler. In the year 44 BCE, Rome is the greatest power in the known world, and at its center stands Gaius Julius Caesar, a general, a reformer, a brilliant orator, and now a man with power unlike any Roman before him. After years of civil war, victories in Gaul, and the defeat of his rival Pompey the Great, Caesar returns to Rome not as a general of the Republic, but as its sole ruler. He is adored by the people for his reforms: land for veterans, grain for the poor, citizenship for those in the provinces, but feared by the Senate for the same reasons. He has taken the title of Dictator Perpetuo, dictator for life, and refuses to bow to the authority of the Senate. Rumors begin to swirl. Will Caesar make himself king? Rome had driven out its last king nearly 500 years before. The very word rex, king, was toxic to Roman ears. When Caesar is seen wearing a purple robe and laurel wreath, sitting on a golden throne, and allowing divine honors, many whisper that the Republic is dying and monarchy is returning. Among Caesar's many allies and former friends, discontent begins to fester. Senators who once stood by him, men like Marcus Junius Brutus, Gaius Cassius Longinus, Decimus Brutus, and Casca, become fearful. They see themselves being replaced, their voices silenced. They believe Caesar aims to destroy the Republic and rule as a king. Cassius, the bitter and politically savvy senator, begins to recruit others. Brutus, the idealist and descendant of Lucius Junius Brutus, the man who helped overthrow the last Roman king, is the most symbolic addition. If Brutus joins, the conspirators believe, the Roman people will see the deed not as murder, but as justice. The plan is simple but dangerous: assassinate Julius Caesar in public and restore liberty to Rome. In the days leading up to the Ides of March, ominous signs abound. A soothsayer publicly warned Caesar, "Beware the Ides of March." Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, dreams of his statue bleeding as Romans wash their hands in it, a nightmare of death. Priests sacrifice animals and find no heart inside, a dreadful omen. On the morning of March 15th, 44 BCE, Caesar wakes in his home. Calpurnia begs him not to go to the Senate meeting scheduled that day. At first, he agreed, but then Decimus Brutus, one of the conspirators, arrives and cunningly persuades him that the Senate will see his absence as weakness or illness. Caesar, proud and confident, decides to go. The Senate is not meeting in the usual curia that day. It is under renovation. So they convene at the Theater of Pompey, a grand building near the Campus Martius. Ironically, this is a place dedicated to Caesar's defeated enemy, Pompey. As Caesar enters the hall, he is surrounded by conspirators pretending to pay homage. Senator Tullius Cimber approaches and begs for the pardon of his exiled brother. Caesar denies the request. Suddenly, Cimber grabs Caesar's toga and pulls it down from his neck, the signal. Then comes Casca, who strikes the first blow. slashing Caesar's neck or shoulder. Caesar turns and cries, "Casca, you villain! What are you doing?" The other senators follow. Daggers flash in the air. In the chaos, Caesar tries to fight back, but he's overwhelmed. He receives 23 stab wounds, though many are superficial. It is said that only one, likely to the chest, is fatal. When he sees Brutus, his trusted ally, raising a dagger, Caesar stops resisting. According to Suetonius, a Roman historian, he simply covers his face with his toga and utters the fateful words, "Kai su teknon?" You too, my child? Often remembered by Shakespeare as "Et tu, Brute." Plutarch, a Greek historian, suggests it might have been meant more as a curse, as in, "You too, Brutus, will die violently." And lastly, according to Cassius Dio, a Roman writer and politician, Caesar saw Brutus and simply covered his head with his toga, showing resignation, and didn't say any final words. Julius Caesar collapses at the foot of the statue of Pompey, as if the defeated general watches in ghostly triumph. The Senate chamber goes silent. The assassins, believing they've saved the Republic, raise their bloodied blades and shout, "People of Rome, we are free again!" But the people are not cheering. Instead, fear, confusion, and grief grip the city. Caesar's body lies abandoned for hours before loyal supporters recover it. When Mark Antony, Caesar's right-hand man, delivers his funeral oration, he carefully stirs the crowd's emotions. Displaying Caesar's blood-stained cloak, he points to each wound, saying, "This was the most unkindest cut of all." The crowd erupts in rage. A riot breaks out, and the conspirators flee for their lives. Caesar is dead, but his spirit lives on. Out of the power vacuum rises a new conflict, the Liberators' Civil War. Caesar's heir, Octavian, and his loyal generals Antony and Lepidus form the second triumvirate to avenge him. One by one, the assassins are hunted down. Brutus and Cassius die by suicide after defeat at the Battle of Philippi. Decimus went into hiding in Gaul, but was captured and executed. The death of Publius Servilius Casca is lost in the history books, but he was most likely captured and executed during the triumvirate's purge of Caesar's assassins, or the other obvious death option, he committed suicide. And Octavian, Caesar's great-nephew and adopted son, becomes Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The Roman Republic, which the conspirators sought to protect, dies with Caesar. In its place rises an empire. Julius Caesar's death is a moment where ideals clashed with ambition and where betrayal changed the course of history. For some, he was a tyrant who had to be stopped. For others, he was a visionary murdered by jealous men. Whatever your view, the Ides of March remains a timeless story of power, loyalty, betrayal, and fate.